Welcome in once again to another Johnny Torch Live broadcast number 269. And we bring you Torch News Roundup number 298. Wow. Hard to believe we've been doing this for like 10 years, right? But this is the first Johnny Torch Live of 2026. So let me be the last person to wish you a happy new year. And hope you had an enjoyable Christmas season. Work on the book, Bullets Bourbon, if you haven't read it yet. The newest issue is out and ready for your perusal. There's a new invention or whatever that they have here, a new gimmick on StreamYard where they can let you put a QR code on the screen. So I have taken advantage of that by placing a QR code on the screen. And I guess if you're not on your phone, you could use your phone to scan the QR code. It takes you right to my website, and you'll be able to check out the most latest issue of the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. The Against All Odds arc is now underway. As I was saying, the newest issue that I'm working on right now, which is issue number 14, part 2 of the Against All Odds arc, it's coming very slowly because, as is wont to happen, I usually end up having computer problems at some point during every issue. And in this case, it's not the computer, thank heavens, but it's the stylus. Stylus isn't working right. I sent out for a new stylus over the Christmas season, got it in, it didn't work, wasn't satisfied with it, sent it back, and now I've got to start taking the time to peruse for another stylus. I'll try to get on that as quickly as possible. Of course, a lot of other things are going on that's getting in the way. Life tends to get in the way sometimes, but it's coming along nicely. I'm doing some cleanup work on that, and once I have some, pages to show that are cleaned up enough and ready for public consumption, I'll be sure to get them on a Johnny Torch broadcast for your perusal as soon as possible. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about because I haven't done a live show in quite a while. We weren't completely without, shows recently. We did the Supergirl trailer, so you can check that out. And we've got the Avengers Doomsday trailers later on in the show. I wasn't really that excited about them, so honestly, I felt like I was waiting for all of them to come out so we could do them all at once rather than just do one and then wait another week like they were rolling them out. I I don't have a problem with them, but I kind of feel like it was a little underwhelming. I think they're waiting for a decent trailer, a sizable one that's going to really show some of the movie for like the Super Bowl. So we kind of have to wait for that. But for teasers, they're all right. We'll go into that a little bit later. Of course, the He-Man trailer came out today. That was something I've been looking forward to for a long time. I'm going to give you the pluses and the minuses over that, but we also got some stuff to talk about. The Darth Maul trailer came out today. There's also some talk in the DCU, both what Gunn's doing and what Matt Reeves is doing. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So yeah, sit back. This is going to be probably a full hour show today. I'm going to give you your money's worth for all the topics we haven't covered in the past couple of months. So sit back and settle down for that. Get yourself a nice cold drink and a couple of snacks, and keep me company here for the foreseeable future. Before we get to any of that, there is another project I've been working on during my waiting for the styluses to come in and sent back and so on and so forth. So I put together a AI trailer. Now, depending on who you talk to, some people will get excited when you say AI. Some people will be furious when you mention AI. To me, just for the record, if you don't know, I've taken a pledge never to use AI in the actual comics. I got into comics to draw, to write stories. I don't want a computer program deciding the stories for me or making the artwork. But I still see AI as a tool that could be very useful in things such as animation. Now, taking panels that I've drawn and having AI animate them, I think is a good thing. I think that's something that I want to pursue somewhere down the line. I don't think AI is quite ready to make full-length features and stuff like that. When I get to the point of being able to do a full-length feature of a Bullets Bourbon episode or issue, I'm gonna obviously do it. But right now, all we can do is work on getting a trailer out, and it's a very inexact science. You really can't get exactly what you want every time. No matter how many prompts you put in, it's very difficult to get the AI generator to give you exactly what you want. So bearing that in mind, some of the time the faces will look a little off. Some of the time the action won't quite match up what you've asked them to do if you want to have an action scene. But we debuted this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago now, and we're going to debut it now on the show. If you haven't seen the AI animated trailer for Bullets Bourbon Against All Odds, you are in for a treat because we're going to get to that in just a moment. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and do all those wonderful things that will help out. I want to thank everybody that has joined the channel. We've got a couple of new subscribers, and I'm very pleased. I'm very happy whenever we get new subscribers. We've been floating around the 350 mark for a while, 350 subscribers. We really want to, increase that. It would help if I did more videos and did more live streams, I understand. But thank you for taking part in the show whenever you can, watching the videos. It really helps. And, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure the content is always there for others to find. I think StreamYard has a new function where you can make clips easier. That's always something that's always been difficult for me. When I try to make clips of the show, I'm always afraid I'm going to ruin it and mess up. And supposedly it's going to be easier. So maybe I'll be able to get some clips from this and garner some more attention for the channel. So that's always a good thing. All right, so drum roll, please. And this is going to be the, let's see, this is going to be the trailer for Bullets Bourbon. Here's a drum roll. Kind of a weak drum roll, but that's the drum roll they gave me. All right, here we go. Isn't that just so exciting? It brings a thrill to my heart to be able to see my drawings and story be animated in such a way. Again, there's a couple of things I would have changed. I think it's probably like 85-90% there, but it's not quite there yet to my satisfaction. Some of the faces could be more consistent. Some of the action could be a little more fluid. But that General Diesel, especially that power-up scene, that is really something. That's kind of taken straight from my imagination. It looks like exactly like I wanted it to look. And a lot of the stuff with Bullets Bourbon as well, a lot of the action scenes and stuff was great. Veronica looks beautiful. So I'm very pleased with it. I'm very proud of it. And I'm probably going to be working on some more trailers in my, part-time and my downtime, so to speak, to sort of, get some more interest in it. But again, I'm really hoping that the technology will advance sooner rather than later. Because originally I thought we were about 10 years away from doing a real, you know, feature length or TV episode length story of Bullets Bourbon in animation, but I think we probably are only like 5 years away now. I think it's growing by leaps and bounds. I think, probably within the next 5 years, by probably by 2030, I think you'll be able to make your own animated feature on a computer, on a laptop, very simple, similar to what I do with the comics. And that's what's great about being a creator at this point is all you need is your imagination, and all you need is a laptop, some software, and you can create anything you want. That's why I always try to encourage people, creative people, be creative. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of AI. Don't be afraid of that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that, you know, it doesn't matter. Just get your stuff out there. You'll improve. You'll always improve. And you got to have that spark of creativity fed. And the more you do something like this, the more you do creative endeavors, the more you'll want to do it and you'll have confidence in doing it. And the world needs art, really. And your art is no better or worse than anyone else's. That's the way I've always seen it. If there's, a shelf with worthy books on it, what makes them more worthy than yours? I mean, mine's is not maybe the best book on the shelf, but it's neither the worst. I think there's plenty up there that probably don't deserve to be up there, and people probably think that of mine. But everybody deserves a shot in the spotlight, and take your shot and make sure people know that you're there. So that's my advice to you. All right, so now that we did the commercial for Bullets Bourbon, please check out the book. It's near and dear to my heart, and you know, I think people would really like it if they give it a shot. That's the problem, is trying to get people online to give it a shot. But um, when I do shows and stuff, people are generally interested, but it's tougher getting someone to pull the trigger online. But if you scan the QR code, click the link in the description below, whatever you do, you will have a chance. You'll be taken to my website, and you'll have a chance to read the comic on Global Comics, because we're on Global Comics now. You can even purchase it there as a digital download. Of course, we're on Indie Planet if you want the actual hard copy. And who knows? We're going to try to expand the business a little bit this year. At least that's what I'm trying to dedicate myself to doing. Is trying to expand and make Bullets Bourbon available on some more platforms, because it really deserves to be. All right, so here we are. Let's take a look now at what our first topic is. This is the topic of the day. Everybody is excited about. Well, most people are excited about the new He-Man trailer. The He-Man trailer dropped. We had the teaser trailer yesterday. The teaser to the teaser, I guess, because this was actually a teaser trailer. And again, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I was a huge He-Man fan as a kid, betraying my age a little bit there, I suppose. But it was all about He-Man, and of course, Star Wars was a big part too. But He-Man was sort of the boys' toy and cartoon property for a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and it really is worth exploring in this day and age, because I mean, we've done a lot of the toy films from the 80s. We did the Transformers, we did GI Joe. I think we have Voltron in the works, which may or may not be any good, but He-Man was always ripe for another shot at the movies. And of course, we had the Dolph Lundgren Frank Langella movie, which again is also near and dear to my heart. Not completely accurate, but again, they did as best as they could in the 80s with that kind of budget. You couldn't do Battle Cat, really. You probably couldn't do Orko, who is also strangely absent from this trailer. I don't know if he's even going to be in the movie. Um, but at first blush, let me just say what bothered me about seeing this is, of course, we have the race changed Man at Arms. That, of course, is going to be the first problem I have, because I have a feeling this movie was started filming, or the pre-production was during the last gasps of the woke era. And that's the reason why they race changed Man at Arms. I've said this before, but the problem with race changing Man at Arms for me is more personal, because I always had the headcanon that Duncan was really Tila's father, even though they kind of tried to deny that. You know, they sort of made a story to cover it. That was always my take on it. I always thought that he was really her father, and that they couldn't let it be known that he and the sorceress were an item. And of course, that can't happen now. It just won't make as much sense. So that's kind of disappointing to me on a personal level, as well as just wanting it to look the same as the cartoon. Idris Elba's playing Man at Arms. Again, he's a good actor, you know, and to try to call this woke because of the race change, the problem with that is I think this would have happened even 10 years before the woke era, because you always had sort of the politically correct, where they kind of had a race change a character no matter what. I mean, if you look at like something as simple as like the Fantastic Four movies, where they race changed Alicia. I mean, that was a good 8 to 10 years before the woke era started, and it was still race changing then too. So it's going to happen, and I don't know if you could call the movie woke just because they race changed Man at Arms. Now, I don't like a race change, but I kind of don't feel like this shows that it's going to be woke. The other woke thing is, I always say, there's this like phobia of having Tila wear the appropriate costume from the cartoon. Now you can have her in, you know, bare legs in an 80s cartoon, but to have an actress, for some reason, that's like the most improper thing Hollywood hates. I don't understand it. You know, they wouldn't do it for Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy. They wouldn't even do it in the 80s for the original He-Man movie. They won't let Tila go pantsless, for lack of a better term. And that still drives me crazy, because this is like 2017 all over again. This is like Supergirl wearing the black stockings on the CW. It's like, we've got to protect women from the male gaze, and how dare men look at women showing their legs. And but then again, He-Man is okay to just wear, you know, the loincloth and the battle harness, whatever you call that thing he's wearing. That's okay, you know. But don't misunderstand. Of course, that is the iconic look of He-Man. I don't want that changed. But let's be fair here. Come on, if there's going to be eye candy for the ladies and the gay men, let's be fair with Tila and lose the pants, hopefully, in the sequel. All right. I got that off my chest. Another thing, I guess, if you want to be technical, is I don't really like the way apparently Roboto, that's who's on the left there. Roboto, I think, is supposed to be a woman in this, or have a female voice, and be like a female character. It kind of reminds me of like what they were trying to do with Lando's droid in Solo. And I kind of feel like, again, that's Roboto wasn't really a huge character in the animated series, but I kind of hope that they're not going to, you know, because again, they're going to need another female character in the movie, because basically all you have in the He-Man line is Tila, Evelyn, and, you know, Marlena, the Prince Adam's mother. All three who are in this trailer, by the way. You really didn't need to make Roboto a female, and I kind of feel like that's what they're going to do. Again, if he/she doesn't have a huge part in the film, I'll be all right with it. But that's what I didn't like. All right. Now, going on to the trailer proper, let's take a look at some of these images. Again, I'm not going to play the video because I don't want to get copyright struck. I don't know what is going to be permissible and what's not going to be. So we're not going to take any chances. We're just going to do some clips. This kid, he looks just like Dolph Lundgren in some shots. I think they cast a good kid for this film, because he kind of looks like, you know, Dolph Lundgren He-Man to me. And the conceit of the film is that He-Man, Prince Adam, this is before he even ever becomes He-Man, Prince Adam has been sent to Earth by the Queen, not the King, mind you. I don't know where King Randor is in all this. I guess apparently he's going to be killed. I'm not sure. But Adam is sent to Earth, to protect him because Skeletor is taking over Eternia, and the power sword somehow goes with him. And it seems like he's trying to find it in order to go back home. And this is a different take. This is not like the 1987 film where he was already He-Man. He didn't even have a persona as Prince Adam. They completely did away with that. So again, the 87 film isn't exactly faithful either. But in this case, my concern is if you're sending Adam to Earth, apparently at a young age, we see him as like 8 years old or whatever he is. If you're sending him to Earth at that age, how does he grow up with Teela? Teela is supposed to be his contemporary. And does he just meet her? Did they know each other when they were 8? That's probably what I think they're going to do. I don't think necessarily that's a good idea. And, I think Man-at-Arms sort of mentoring him as a young child would be something that would be important to see. And again, he's not really going to have that relationship with Duncan until, between the ages of 8 and whatever he is now, 21, he's not going to have that relationship with Duncan either. I think these are some of the things that are worth being concerned about, because I really want those relationships intact. I don't want this to be that he's just meeting these people for the first time. And I think it reminds me a little bit what they're doing here. It reminds me of She-Ra, because I think that was the story of She-Ra, and I haven't seen the Secret of the Sword, I think it's called. I haven't seen that in several years, but I think the story was the king and queen sent Adora, to Etheria to try to get her away from Skeletor or something, and then Hordak ended up capturing her and sort of brainwashing her, bringing her up as sort of his lieutenant. And that was a good story, and that's something I hope that they do in a sequel. That would probably be fun, but I think they're trying to take a page from that and apply it to He-Man, which is another reason why I'm not that outraged at this idea. Because a lot of things, people are like, well, why can't they just play this straight? Why do we have to go to Earth all the time? It's kind of like, I think, the original Sonic movie, and you see all of them do this, where it's kind of like they have to start on Earth for a couple of reasons. One, I think the first film you never have as big a budget, and they want to be able to spend the budget on stuff like Skeletor. We're going to show Skeletor and stuff in a second, and the battles with all the crazy creatures, Eternia. They want to spend all the coin there, but they don't have the money to do that throughout the whole film. Another thing is they want to get the layman who doesn't really understand. They want to be able to show it from an observer's eye view. So, if they start on Eternia and things are happening and people are like, well, who's this? I don't understand what's going on. What are these people doing? If you have it sort of like where Adam is sort of taking you through the paces and showing, oh yeah, this is Man-at-Arms, and this is his relationship to Teela, and this is what the Castle Grayskull stands for, and the Sword of Power, it kind of makes it more palatable for people that are not diehards like us, like me, who grew up with it and already know everything backwards and forwards about the characters, their relationships, what the powers are. And I think that's kind of why they do it. And I mean, I wish they didn't, but in a way it makes sense. So you have that. All right. Again, I've another complaint I've seen. Now this is where it just starts getting crazy. I want to just bang my head against the computer when I see these people. As soon as anything comes out, that's all they do is complain. I didn't have this as a story today in our news roundup, but the picture of Sophie Turner as Lara Croft came out, and everybody was immediately going hysterical on the computer and going ballistic, and oh, it doesn't look like her. And I'm like, wait a minute. They cast a redheaded actress, a white actress, which for a redhead is, that's quite a commitment to them. They got her dressed basically the same as the video game. Why are people complaining? It's like they never happy. They are never happy. Fans will always find something to complain about. And so when we seen the image of this yesterday, and everybody was going, bat crap crazy about, oh, it looks like Guardians of the Galaxy. For some reason, when they have 4 or more members of a cast together, it seems to evoke Guardians of the Galaxy to people. I don't understand why. This is just sort of like a cast photo from a scene in the film, but oh, it's drab. I'm like, drab? You got a guy in a pink shirt in the middle of the shot. This is drab to you? You got She's wearing white pants, and you got a green and gold tiger. You got a blue robot, and you got a guy in a green metallic suit, and this is drab to you? I think people are like just trying too hard at this point. You're trying too hard to complain about things. Because if this is something you think that is drab, then you need to have your eyes examined, because you probably are colorblind. Let's be honest. People are looking for things to complain about. Now let's take a look at this. This was the lightning rod for every single would-be right-wing, anti-woke zealot out there when they saw this. Adam Glenn, he, him. First of all, I liked that his name is Glenn in this, because if I remember correctly, in the show's Bible, Marlena, who is the mother of Adam, she is from Earth. That's another reason why she sends him to Earth in this movie, allegedly, is because she knows Earth. She's from Earth. And I think she was an astronaut. And I think, if I remember correctly, she was related to John Glenn, the astronaut. And so this kind of makes sense. Again, the people who've made this film kind of have done their homework. But that's an aside. Now, the people complaining about this because it says he, him. Now, obviously, if you see the trailer and you understand what's going on in the trailer, the first thing that jumps out at you, obviously, it's a pun. It's he, him, he, man. Yeah, isn't that clever? But if you see what's going on in the trailer, as we just showed that scene where Adam is sort of like, basically disconsolate, being stuck in this cubicle, and they're doing some kind of he's reporting to his boss or whatever, and it's basically a DEI hire who is telling him it's not a good look for you to be interested in these geek things. And then he's going to the shop to try to get the sword, and you get this blue-haired weirdo woman telling him, you're not allowed to touch the sword and this and that. And anybody with an ounce of objectivity could understand that this is poking fun at the woke world we live in. This is poking fun at post-woke America, where we were conditioned to, it's not a good look, you've got to read the room, you're a he, him, and you got to deal with DEI hires and crazy blue-haired liberals. This is taking a shot at these people. This is not trying to condition you to accept it. This is taking a shot at it. What is it that Adam says at the beginning of the trailer? Where I come from, the things that you believe in fairy tales are actually true. Adam is yearning to go back to a place that is a fantasy land, and everybody in Earth current day is miserable, and they make other people miserable. And that's kind of the message of the trailer. I don't understand how obtuse you have to be you have to be willingly obtuse to not understand that and to not get what they were trying to say. But then you've got all the usual suspects, oh, this is woke, look at this, they had to put that ruins the movie for me. It ruins the movie for you because you don't understand it, or you're purposefully not understanding it, because a lot of these guys are grifters. A lot of these guys are practiced in raising the ire of their viewers, and they're ruining another franchise on you. Look what they're doing. This is going to be woke. Well, did you actually watch it in context? Do you actually see what they're trying to say here? Just them showing the sign saying he, him doesn't mean that they're trying to sell wokeness to you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I think they're trying to show that this is a miserable existence for Adam. He wants to get away from it in the worst way, the way all of us have tried and prayed and hoped to get away from wokeness in the last 7-8 years that it's been a issue for us. Again, I think we're coming out of the woke period now, but I understand we went through a lot of stuff. We went through tough times with woke in everything. But I don't think that's the message we're getting from this. I think the message is that Adam is trying to escape wokeness as much as the rest of us, and that the 80s were an idyllic time that we wish we could go back to, for those of us who grew up with He-Man, and this is the perfect vehicle to sort of show that. It reminds me of like Cobra Kai. The Karate Kid was the perfect 80s vehicle, you know what I mean? And now with Cobra Kai, it's like showing how the 80s were a better time and how we're having to sort of tiptoe around what the woke agenda has sort of infiltrated on everyday life. And I feel like this movie kind of has the same potential, at least. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, neither of you, but it has the potential to really focus in on that the way Cobra Kai did, which is like, all right, this is a lot of bull. This is what we got to put up with. But really, there was a better time. There was better days when we went back to the 80s, and Karate Kid was just like, it was a fun time. It was a fun movie. Same thing with He-Man, those cartoons, the original movie. It was a fun time. It was a fun movie. We didn't have to microanalyze everything over wokeness and, are we offending this person? Is there enough representation for that person? And I think that this movie also kind of, in a way, is for boys what the Barbie movie was supposed to be for girls. Because in both situations, we had I didn't see Barbie all the way. I just seen clips like everyone else. But the idea there was that people sort of make fun of Barbie now. People make fun of He-Man now. Oh, He-Man's gay and it's corny and colorful and whatever. And Barbie is the same thing. It's like, oh, there's no real smarts to Barbie. She's just a pretty face, and they kind of try to make up for that by she could be President Barbie, she could be Stewardess Barbie or whatever. But the fact is that if you go back to the core of what those franchises were supposed to be, He-Man was the ultimate adolescent male fantasy. Barbie was sort of the ultimate feminine fantasy. You get all the clothes you want, you got the handsome boyfriend, you can do any job you want, you're Barbie. He-Man, you pick up the sword, you say the magic words, you're the strongest man on the earth. You've got the coolest weaponry, the coolest vehicles, you got a green tiger you can ride on. I mean, this is what, the ultimate fantasy for kids were in the 80s. And I think these movies are going to, at least hopefully, tap into that and say, this is kind of what we wanted. This is what we wanted our our fictional heroes to be that we idolized as a kid. And I'm hoping that they're going to depict them accurately. But again, it remains to be seen. I think, if I'm correct, this is on the right path to it, though. So let's hope so. Oh, Skeletor looks awesome. Oh, man. I was hoping he was going to look good. He looks better than I thought. That is damn frightening. I don't know, if you got kids, you got to prepare them for this, because this is not your dad's Skeletor. I thought Frank Langella was kind of creepy when I was a kid. I was like 7 or 8 years old watching that movie, and I think, like, this is the real deal Skeletor. You know what I mean? They're not playing around. I mean, I hope they strike that balance. The great thing about Frank Langella's Skeletor was that he was imposing. They didn't really play him for laughs. Now in the cartoon, of course it's a cartoon, you had to kind of not make him that scary, and he was sort of like a bumbler, well, he was like, next time, He-Man, I'll get you next time. You know what I mean? I don't think they have to get that campy with Skeletor, but I do want him to be sort of a lot of the bad guys in the 80s in the cartoons were like spoiled brat, like powders, you know what I mean? Why won't they let me win? You got that with, Cobra Commander, Shredder, they would start getting like, they would be hyperventilating about how they couldn't stand losing all the time to the hero. And I kind of feel like they owe us maybe a scene of that with Skeletor. Like, oh, why is this blonde-headed idiot driving me crazy? But I do want that fearful Skeletor. I want that fearsome Skeletor that, you're gonna stand back and take a breath when you see him come on the screen. And I have a feeling, a lot of people making fun of Jared Leto, acting like he's box office poison, and this is a really good visual for Skeletor. I mean, he looks just like the action figure. It looks like the cartoon pretty much. Um, and he's got some fearsome looking warriors with him. We'll take a look at some of the other characters too. But yeah, that is a great looking. I don't know if that's Jared Leto like in a costume, or is this just completely computer generated, or I don't know. He's probably there on set, but I don't know. All right, let's take a look at this. Look at this. Trapjaw. Trapjaw is one of my favorite villains from the cartoon. And it looks like, at least from the back, that they've got him looking exactly like Trapjaw. I can't wait to see his face, man. Man, Trapjaw. He's one of my favorite villains in He-Man. I like to see Triclops too. Triclops was always a big one. They don't show him, I don't think, in this trailer, unless he's like way in the back or something. But yeah, Trapjaw is amazing. He looks great here. My only fear, I think, about this is this going to be one of those things where he's not going to turn into He-Man until like the last 10 minutes of the film? I imagine he's not going to be He-Man for like the first half, but I would like to see him become He-Man, fairly early on in the second, third act, something like that. Because if he's going to be like fumbling around with these guys trying to kill him while he's got the power sword and he doesn't know how to use it, that's going to get old. But hopefully he's going to, we're going to see some He-Man action. I mean, that's what we really want to see. Some other characters we've seen Fisto and Spikor. Oh man, Spikor. Man, that looks so great, Spikor. I didn't notice if he has the claw hand, but that'd be great. And Fisto, of course. I don't know if they're going to do that thing like in the 2000s Masters of the Universe cartoon where he was the actual father of Teela. They could do that. I guess it would be okay, seeing as how they can't have Man-at-Arms be her actual father. But again, it looks just like the action figures. I mean, come on. If you grew up with He-Man, I can't see how you're not excited for this. Evelyn and Beastman. There's a couple more characters. They got Evelyn with the yellow skin. I don't really think it looks that flattering on Alison Brie, who of course is a beautiful girl, but it does just look exactly like Evelyn in the cartoons and the action figures. So I mean, they did their job there. Beastman again looks pretty accurate. I can't really see what he's wearing from there, but he's got the shoulder gauntlets there or whatever. That's like the action figure. That's great. I have a feeling a lot of the beats from this film are going to be similar to the beats in the 87 film, because it looks like they were sent to find Adam, Beastman and stuff. And I have a feeling that the end fight too is going to be similar. Let's see. Here's a scene from the end of the trailer, and it looks very much like the battle for Grayskull at the end of the 87 film. And that was a great battle. With Skeletor with the godlike powers. So hopefully, I think they're gonna try for that kind of level ending. A big, mano-y-mano finish. This, I think, is the Sorceress. This interests me because we didn't get a shot of the Sorceress. This is also kind of disappointing to me because I was hoping she was going to wear the feathered costume, and that's such an iconic looking costume. I know it'd probably, be a lot of money to recreate that for an actual actress. Monica Barron, I think, is the Sorceress. But it just looks like the kind of dress type thing that like the other Sorceress was wearing in the 87 film. You could tell she's got like the colorful cape or whatever you want to call that, evoking Zor, which we see at the beginning of the trailer, who is the bird she transforms into when she is transformed away from Castle Grayskull. If I remember the lore correctly, she can't leave Castle Grayskull without turning into Zor. And I think they skirted around that a little bit in the cartoon. She would like show up and then she had to go back fast before she turned back into the bird or something. But that was like another cool thing. You also could get into all the stories with, Teela is her daughter and will eventually be her heir someday. Well, again, this is just like really exciting. I was really happy with the trailer. I think it could be done well. I think it could be a good thing. I'm hoping it will be. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you having high hopes for Masters of the Universe? Do you think that they're on the right path? Do you think this is, going to be a franchise in the making? Is this going to be Masters 1, 2, and 3? And I kind of hope that they can get that far. I think this film will be successful, but will it be successful enough to spawn sequels? That's what I'm afraid of. I mean, I think, you're looking at maybe 300-400 million maybe with this film, but is that enough to get sequels? I don't know. We'll find out, I suppose. And let's just hope, because I was hoping for a good franchise for GI Joe, and that kind of like didn't happen. We're still waiting for GI Joe to come back, so I'm hoping that doesn't happen with He-Man, a one and done, and then they're out for another, I don't know, what has it been, 30 years since the last almost 40 years since the last Masters movie. All right, so we're going to take a break now because StreamYard doesn't let you put up more than 10 images. So I'm going to show you some commercials, some trailers for the Bullets Bourbon issues, and then we are going to get back with the Avengers Doomsday talk. But again, I have to pull up some shots of that, and I don't have it ready. So we will play some trailers and get to that pronto. I don't know what happened there. I guess when I put up images, they end up stopping the trailer. All right, so we'll talk about our next topic here. What happened? Did I ruin this somehow? All right, here we go. All right, our next topic before we get to the Avengers trailers, we have some new information here about the Man of Tomorrow. Man of Tomorrow is set to debut Maxima to the Gunverse. Let me read the copy here. Maxima is set to be the secondary antagonist. Sources tell NPN that, similar to the comics, she will eventually join forces with the heroes. Maxima was created by Roger Stern and George Perez in 1989 in Action Comics, issue 645. Maxima is the queen of Almerac, who came to Earth to find a suitable mate and marry as her king. She sets her sights on Superman as a potential mate who rejects her. Another notable storyline involving Maxima is the Panic in the Sky crossover event, where Brainiac, with the help of Maxima, invades Earth. Brainiac had taken over Almerac and coerced Maxima into aiding him. Superman assembles a team of heroes to fight Brainiac, and following Maxima's betrayal of Brainiac, the heroes defeat him and Warworld. She later goes on to join the Justice League. Signs point to Man of Tomorrow being an adaptation of Panic in the Sky with the involvement of Brainiac and Maxima. There are also reports of another hero being cast for the film who could potentially join Superman and Lex Luthor to fight off Brainiac's invasion. Although unconfirmed, it's possible that the Justice Gang can return to join the heroes, along with characters like Supergirl, Lobo, Peacemaker. A Justice League film may be far off, but Man of Tomorrow can begin planting seeds for the crossover. All right, so what do you think about this, Maxima? I had a feeling when they did what they did with Jor-El and Lara, and, the whole Superman has a harem thing, I had a feeling they were going to go there. They weren't going to just let that go. And, James Gunn being James Gunn, I'm pretty sure he's going to do this. He's going to have this be the sort of cheeky story where Maxima's chasing Superman. She's sort of the Superman equivalent of Talia. She's like constantly throwing herself I remember when this character came out and I was a teenager in the 80s, and I mean, like in the 90s. That's kind of what you did. It was like someone's gonna throw herself at Superman, become a big character. Okay. Um, will it work? I guess so. They're basing it on Panic in the Sky, which I haven't read, but I do remember this character from the comics, and I think she was also in the animated series. I think she was in Smallville, so this won't be like the first time the public will have had a chance to see her. This is probably the biggest role though that she's going to have. Again, they can make it work, but I always have my reservations about James Gunn. I don't know that he has, the way I put it on Twitter when I was covering the story was that James Gunn has the sensibilities of a good comic book director. He knows the way they're supposed to look. The costuming is usually accurate. The tone, the he's not afraid to have the whatever it's called, the interdimensional imps from the sky that they have to fight, the big kaijus. He's not rooted in reality and having everything have to make, sense to a realistic world. It's hyper realistic, I guess, is what the point is. But he doesn't have the instincts that he should for a comic book film, because the instincts he has is to be with his humor, and it's usually off color humor, and it doesn't necessarily fit something that should be geared to a 12-year-old boy. You know what I mean? And he kind of skirted that a little bit in Superman. He pushed the envelope, and I really feel like, we kind of could get away with it in Superman. Are we going to push our luck too much in Man of Tomorrow? Are we going to make this sort of a running joke, like the Superman has a harem thing that really doesn't belong in a family picture? That's my concern. But they could make this interesting if, like I said, they're following, I guess, a popular storyline in the comics. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's take a look. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this idea of Maxima being brought in? What do you think is going to happen in Man of Tomorrow? Gunn, for what I remember, basically said that it's not really going to be a Superman sequel as much as it's a team-up movie. It's not even really Superman's movie. It's not really a sequel. So let me know what you think about that. I don't know. All right, next up, we had some talk, some scuttlebutt about the Batman 2. Now, I'm not really a fan of the Batman 1. I didn't like it at all. One of my favorite reviews I did of the Batman. So if you want to look at a fun and funny review for the Batman, look up my review. I think it's only a half hour long because I really didn't have much to say about it. I didn't like it. So that'll tell you everything you need to know about the Batman from me. But the drink of choice tonight is Fruit Splash Canada Dry, by the way. It's really good. I don't know if it's only around Christmas. I got a couple of cans left over from Christmas, and it's very good, very refreshing. But let's talk about the Batman 2. I don't know really. I don't have any copy for this. I don't know if this is a done deal, but apparently Scarlett Johansson and Sebastian Stan are at least in talks to be in the Batman 2. There was a lot of rumor, a lot of innuendo of Scarlett Johansson being the Phantasm, and a lot of people went ballistic on that, like doing mock-ups of what she'd look like as the Phantasm, Andrea Beaumont, and apparently that's not going to be the case. People are saying she's going to be Gilda Dent. I only know her as Grace Dent from the animated series, I guess because they didn't have the heart to call her Gilda in the animated series. But she's the wife of Harvey, and Harvey, of course, is suggested to be Sebastian Stan. I think that's good casting. I mean, Sebastian Stan, come on, if he doesn't look like Harvey Dent, then Harvey Dent doesn't exist. But again, I can't get excited about this because I don't like what Matt Reeves is doing. What we were talking about with James Gunn just a moment ago. James Gunn, he knows how to do the comic book genre. He knows he's got comic book sensibilities. He's not going to try to make this grim and gritty and realistic. Matt Reeves will. And that's not interesting to me. We've got Barry Cohegan, may or may not return as the Joker. Some people are suggesting that he's going to be back. I don't know if we know that or not. Again, I can't stand that version of the Joker. It looks terrible, that design. You could put 500 chimpanzees in a room for 3 days and they'll come up with a better Joker design than they did for Barry's Joker in the Batman. Pustules and swollen jowls and whatever his face looked like. I don't know. You know, the Penguin, I don't think the Penguin, I mean, the Penguin was like a good character, but not as the Penguin. You know what I mean? The Penguin doesn't act like that. The Penguin doesn't really look like that. I mean, it kind of gave him the nose, but this just is not representative of the Batman for me. I wasn't crazy about Robert Pattinson. I was not one of those guys that like had a axe to grind because he was in Twilight and how dare he become Batman or whatever like that. But you know, like I said, he seemed like, to me, he had two modes. He was either going to burst out into tears or he was going to attack somebody violently. And I kind of felt like Batman doesn't really fall into either of those categories. Batman's like methodical and keeps his head. I don't think he's going to go pummeling someone. You know, people complain, oh, well, this is the Batman year one. And, well, you had Batman year one in Batman Begins and it was head and shoulders better than this. But anyway, I don't have a lot to say about this other than, yeah, you got some good actors if they are indeed, in fact, going to be in this film. I don't really know, you know, I mean, I suppose I'll see it at some point on streaming or something. I don't think I'm going to go see it up the movies. I didn't like the original one. I didn't like, you know, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. That was terrible. And you know, I just the Riddler with the trash bag looking outfit. I mean, I don't know why are they so afraid of a authentic to the comics version of these things? It's always back to the same 2 or 3 villains. It's always real world stuff, real world settings. It's always about, you know, anarchy and whatever. Where are the colorful villains? Where's Mr. Freeze? Apparently they're going to do Clayface. They're going to give him his own movie, as if they learned nothing from Sony doing the Spider-Man villains movies, solo movies. I don't know. I honestly don't know where you go with this. This is like, you know, it's just going to be one of those things. You know, if you're into the hyper realistic stuff that Matt Reeves did with the first movie, you're probably gonna like this. I to me, you know, I got no interest at all. But let me know what you think in the comments below. That about says it all. I mean, I don't know. Let's see. We got one more thing here to talk about before we get to. This is from. Let's see. Other news about the DCU. We have Christina Hodson, who wrote The Flash, Birds of Prey, and Bumblebee. And she's going to write the script for Batman the Brave and the Bold. Now, this movie's been in the works for a while now. This is the James Gunn version of Batman. This is the one I want to see, because I want to see if they're actually going to give us a comic accurate Batman now that has the hyper realistic villain, you know, what's it called? Heightened reality villains with Mr. Freeze, and you can have, you know, Man Bat and all that stuff. I don't want to get away necessarily from like the Joker and the Riddler and Penguin and Catwoman. That's fine. I mean, bring them in. But let's do it in such a way where they actually look like, you know, I don't want to have just like the Joker with smeared makeup on anymore. I don't want to have the Joe Pesci-esque Penguin. I don't want to have the Riddler in a trash bag. I don't want to have Catwoman with a cat suit. And oh yeah, look at this. This looks like ears. She's got goggles. It looks like ears. You know what I mean? Don't be ashamed of it anymore. Give us a Batman with a blue and gray costume. Give us Robin. Give us Batgirl. Give us some of these characters that are in the Bat family. Give us Nightwing. We can't be afraid of that anymore. And I think James Gunn will go in that direction. Give us a Batman that calls it the Batcave. That's what I want to hear. Give us a Batman that calls it the Batmobile. You know what I mean? Lean into it. Everybody's so afraid, I think, ever since Batman and Robin, that they don't want to like take advantage of the comics. Everything has got to be, it's gritty, it's realistic, it's, you could see the sweat under his eyes. I mean, come on. Anyway, Christina Hodson lit the internet ablaze with this revelation that she's writing the script for Batman Brave and the Bold. The Flash, Birds of Prey, Bumblebee. I don't know about Bumblebee. I never seen that one. But again, The Flash, Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey wasn't a great movie. It took too many liberties with the characters. It was not good. The Flash, I still maintain, I'm on the fence with The Flash. The Flash, I didn't like Ezra Miller as the Flash. I thought the movie itself, though, was very good because it was well balanced. You know what I mean? The emotional scenes were very emotional. The funny scenes were very funny. The action scenes were good enough. We got Batman with Michael Keaton back. And I felt like the movie worked, but it worked like as an Elseworlds. It didn't work as something that I, would want to be a part of the DCU. You know what I mean? I just enjoyed it as a movie. And okay, you could sort of say it's in that, multiverse somewhere where Michael Keaton's Batman exists and, all that. It's on its own planet. That's fine. I enjoy it, thinking of it in those terms. But that's not what I want to see attached to any version of the DCU going forward, of course. And as I said on Twitter, I mean, you can't really judge a writer by the finished product. I mean, this is going to go to Andy Muschietti as the director, also the director of The Flash. But again, that doesn't really concern me as much because, like I said, The Flash wasn't a bad movie. I mean, he directed what was there on the paper. And it's the same thing as here. She's only writing what the producers want to see, what the director wants to see. It's a collaboration that not necessarily is going to reflect her abilities. She's going to write the kind of tone that Gunn wants, that Muschietti wants. And that's what it's going to be. You know what I mean? It's not going to be a case of, well, she's just going to come up with a crap product and they're going to be forced to put it on the screen. It depends also how much you trust Muschietti and Gunn. Of course, if you hate The Flash and Muschietti directed The Flash and Gunn said that it was one of the best superhero movies in the last 10 years and Hodson wrote it, you're not going to have much trust. I understand that. But I'm willing to give it a chance. So, I always have the wait and see mentality. I'm not one of these guys that are like these YouTube rage baiters that's going to go, oh, this is so terrible. Everything's so woke. Oh, I can't stand the AI slop anymore. I mean, if you can do something to impress me, I'll be impressed. If it's bad, I'll say it's bad. I mean, we don't have any candid reviewers anymore that are unafraid to say, I'm giving this a chance. Or, yeah, it looks pretty bad. It's either it's terrible or they're going to simp for it and act like, oh, well, this is going to be the greatest thing. Well, no, who knows? I don't know. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I think it's got a chance of being pretty good. But again, we don't have a great track record with some of the protagonists of the movie here. Some of the players, if you will. All right, let's take a look at, we've got one more story before we get to the Avengers. We're saving the Avengers for last, huh? You like that? I'm stringing you guys along here. But we got one more story. Darth Maul, the Darth Maul trailer for the Darth Maul show just came out today as well. This looks pretty bad. You know what? Darth Maul, the new animated series Star Wars Maul Shadow Lord, follows the ruthless Sith Lord rebuilding his criminal empire on a remote planet after the Clone Wars, where he meets a disillusioned young Jedi Padawan key to his quest against the Emperor. Sam Witwer returns as Maul's voice, joined by talents like Wagner Moura, and a cast voicing new characters in a bold, painterly animated style with visible brush strokes. You care about the brush strokes? You like the brush strokes out there? Let me know. The 2-episode premiere steams like broccoli. And it smells like it, too. The 2-episode... We've been on for too long. We're going on an hour here. The 2-episode premiere streams on Disney Plus April 6, 2026, with weekly pairs through May 4th, delivering a tightly connected 10-episode story fans are already praising for its raw look. So, I saw the trailer. I'm not the biggest fan of the Disney, well, the Clone Wars stuff in general, but I mean, I'm not like a huge follower of that stuff. For me, it was like disposable entertainment. I watched it, I forgot it, and I never went back to watch it again. So I don't know. But this looks good. This, this is sort of the connective tissue. I don't like the way they killed Maul in Rebels. It was such a lame death. I don't care what anybody says, and they try to hype it up as, oh, well, this is like high art. He finds Obi-Wan when they're both probably like 90 years old, and then they have one slash at each other. Obi-Wan kills him, and it's over. To me, that is like the biggest anticlimax of them all. These guys, they should have got Ray Park and Ewan McGregor together for Kenobi. I don't know, season 2. They should have done it in season 1. And it's a standoff. They fight each other to the death, and Maul finally gets his comeuppance. Instead, everything is going to lead up to that lousy Rebels episode. So it's hard for me to get excited about this. But this, does bring the connective tissue, like I said, around from Solo, where we learned that Maul was the head of, what was it, Black Sun. And he, I really wouldn't have imagined this for the character, but he became like a big shot gangster with one of these, syndicates like, no, it wasn't Black Sun. Wasn't that Shizor? I forget. But anyway, he's a big head honcho of some syndicate. And then you got like, the Hutts, and you got him. And so I didn't really expect it to be like that. But this is sort of like how he gets, how he makes his bones, as it were, his metal bones. And the Emperor is still trying to kill him because there can only be 2. And he can't have a rogue Sith running around. And he's already got Darth Vader. Which it probably would be interesting if you had Vader fight Maul in one of these episodes. That would probably be cool. But the thing is I don't see, like, one of them wouldn't escape alive. You know what I mean? Someone's going to die in that fight, Vader versus Maul. And it's I don't know who I would bet on in that case, because Vader is supposed to be, like, more powerful than the Emperor himself. But then again, he's, like, stuck in a mechanical body where he really can't, function to his potential. Maul is like the greatest trained Sith, in like a millennium. He's like, he jumps around, does all kind of stuff, but now he's stuck in a metal with metal legs, and he's like not going to be quite that athletic. So I don't know who would come away the winner there, especially, you got the double-sided lightsaber with Maul. I would be tempted to put my money on Maul. See, everybody makes like Darth Vader a superhero. He was really not, he's a guy in a metal suit. He's a metal man. He really can't like function the way he was intended to when the Emperor first recruited him. He was hoping he was going to be like the top dog, and he was, going to be unbeatable. The only reason why he was so unbeatable is because the Empire took out like, 90% of the Jedi, and then Vader had to take out like probably another 10%. We were kind of led to believe that he like took them all out on his own, but I mean, it wasn't quite like that. All right, so let me know what you think about the Darth Maul show, Shadow Lord. Okay. So that's interesting. I think it's going to be very interesting. All right, let's take a look at the Avengers trailers. At least we'll talk about them. I can't show them. But, all right, what was the first one here? We had the first, we'll take them in order of how they were released. First one was the Captain America trailer. And I'll describe it briefly. Captain America drives up. Steve Rogers. For those of you who still believe that Sam Wilson is Captain America, we'll call him Steve Rogers, just for you. Steve Rogers drives up on the motorcycle. He goes into a house. He looks at his Captain America suit. He picks up a baby and cradles it warmly. And it says Captain America will return, or whatever. Steve Rogers will return for Avengers Doomsday. Now, I guess what we can gain from this is what's fun about this, really. I mean, because the trailers, like I said, are not really thrilling, but what we can gain from this, I guess, is that when he went back in time, he actually had a child with Peggy. They married, of course. And I don't really know what that's, what is that going to, for the future? Is this son of Steve Rogers going to grow up to be something important? I don't know. And, this film, I think, what I think it has to do is erase the bad taste of Endgame. I don't know how many people still love Endgame. I think a lot of people are sort of sort of turning on it now, but from the beginning, I didn't like it because of the portrayal of Steve Rogers. He's a guy that's not going to, sacrifice anything for his own personal happiness. That's not the way Steve Rogers is, and I don't see that's the way he was. Now, I have a feeling that the fact that he did go back in time and change things and got the girl and had a baby, I think that's going to have a lot of bad implications for the rest of the world, for the rest of the universe, for the rest of the multiverse. And the job of this film is to clean that up and to set things back at the status quo. We've heard Kevin Feige say several times he's not going to bring Iron Man back and cheapen the sacrifice, whatever. But apparently, they must know. They can't be that stupid. They have to know that the DEI Avengers was never going to work. I'm firmly of the opinion that they knew this all along. Kevin Feige was pretty much a straight shooter when it came to the Marvel Universe. When he put together Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, the first phase, second phase, he was on the ball. And I think what happened was because Obama did the DEI requirements, companies got to pay off if they filled the requirements for diversity, and that's why you've seen all the entertainment sort of post 2015 or whatever, all getting progressively more woke. And people don't want to admit that. They just want to say that they hate you. Hollywood hates you and this. All right. Hollywood hates you. That in a quarter will get you a cup of coffee. I mean, Hollywood loves your money. Whether they love you or not personally for who you are and what you stand for doesn't amount to a hill of beans. Money talks. And if they can't sell you a movie of Sam Wilson as Captain America, they're not going to keep doing it just on principle. Now, there's some zealots, there's some true believers. I think Kathleen Kennedy being one, which supposedly she's going to be gone pretty soon. I didn't add that to the already copious stories that we had to talk about today. But I very honestly think when people go off on that tangent of, oh, well, they hate you, and you're looking at this from an emotional point of view, an emotional perspective. It's not that they hate you. They want to make as much money as they can. If they can do that and you love them, great. If they can do that and you hate them, great. When the DEI money was coming in, and a lot of these guys are Hollywood liberals and they believe the fluff that they're taught about, we got to have a black man be Captain America. We got to have a woman be Thor. We've got to, whatever the situation is. They will eat that up. But then to try to sell that to people is another thing. So I firmly believe they hoped against hope that people would love and desire more Sam Wilson Captain America, more female Thor, more, DEI projects like Ironheart and whatever. But the truth is, they had to know that people weren't going to like that. They had to know because it didn't work in the comics. And if it didn't work in the comics, it wasn't going to work in live action. It just wasn't. So they had to have a backup plan. And I believe the backup plan was always this. Now, originally it might have been Kang Dynasty or whatever it was called. And they had to alter it because they didn't want Jonathan Majors having a big part in it. All well and good. But, I think they knew that it was always going to lead to this. It was always going to end up here. And so that's why this is not shocking. This is not something they had to scramble to put together. This is something that they knew was going to happen. And they were going to have to reboot the universe in some way. And I don't know exactly how that's going to happen. I mean, you're just now introducing the X-Men. You're just now introducing Fantastic Four. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I'm pretty sure after Secret Wars, the new version of Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, Natasha, they're all going to be played by new actors. So, that's what I think is going to happen. All right, let's take a look at the second trailer now. The second trailer is with the mighty Thor, and this one I liked. Like I said, it didn't really mean anything to me the first one, but this one I liked. It's like Thor is like praying to Odin, I suppose, to the All Father, and he's like saying, you know, again, this much like the Captain America one centers around his daughter Love, which he adopted in Love and Thunder. And I give them credit for not just dropping that character entirely, because nobody liked Love and Thunder. And, you know, they could have just like swept it under the rug and said Love is in New Asgard going to school or something. They didn't do that. They just made her part of this. And it seems like the thread is we left Fantastic Four with Doom talking to Franklin, apparently. And we've got Captain America has a son, and now Thor has an adopted daughter. It seems to me that they're leading up to something where the children are all going to be somehow in jeopardy. And these children are going to be what drives the OG Avengers back into, service. And it's very moving here that Thor is like, praying for a victory for one last time, and he wants to come back to his daughter. It's like real old school Viking stuff. You know what I mean? It's really cool. And this is again allegedly the swan song for Chris Hemsworth. I think he himself has kind of hinted around that this might be his last go. These two Avengers movies. So whether he goes to Valhalla or just retires or is just sort of swept up into the multiverse and recast, we'll have to see. But this one, this was a pretty good trailer. I like this one. My favorite trailer of them was this one, the X-Men one, because this is once again bringing us back to the original X-Men. They got the accurate costume there from the animated series on Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart, God love him. He comes back for every time he's asked. And, God love him for being that dedicated to the fans, because, he's great. He was like, they're always talking about perfect casting. They're always talking about, Christopher Reeve was perfect casting. Linda Carter was perfect casting. Hugh Jackman was perfect casting. You've got to admit, Patrick Stewart was perfect casting. Everybody knew it from the jump, and everybody, wants to see him come back as often as possible. Now, do we have to see him die again? That's the scary thing. I don't really want to see him die again. We don't need that. We don't need that in our lives, baby. We don't need to see Professor X bite the dust for what would be. Would this be the fourth time if he dies this time? I think this will be the fourth time, and we could probably do without that. Of course, we've got Ian McKellen back. Ian McKellen, God bless him as well, answers the call. And it's really a touching thing. You know what I mean? You really like to see these guys together, because they really felt like Eric and Charles. You know what I mean? You could understand the brotherhood between them, that it felt like they were always going to be friends, but they were always going to be standing apart, And this was it's a tender moment. I don't want to like play it up to make it sound too schmaltzy or anything, but it's like, how many times have these guys faced their mortality, and it's like they're getting older and older and facing it more and more often. So and of course we finally, I love the dude. We're finally gonna get James Marsden getting his due. James Marsden, Cyclops, and it looks like there's like Sentinels destroying everything. Now, the one thing that bugs me about this is I don't like bringing back the heroes just to have them die. This is kind of like a trope that I hate. Like in Crisis on Infinite Earths with the 90s Flash, John Wesley's ship, they brought him back knowing full well that they were just going to put him in the crisis scenario from the comics, Crisis on Infinite Earths, where he runs a treadmill until he dies and disintegrates. which I wouldn't mind so much if they did that, if they kind of earned it. You have to earn it if you're going to do something like this. If you're going to burn everything down and you're going to kill off, like a lot of people are suggesting Jean Grey is probably dead in this continuity. Um, maybe some of the others that haven't been mentioned as being in this film. But, if they had shown, that Barry was married to Tina, showed us, Julio or something, I would feel like, well, you know, do something with these characters before you just kill them off. A lot of people are like, well, they're probably going to kill off Cyclops in the first 10 minutes of the film. No, don't say that, please. You've got to get these guys where they have earned going out on their shield like that. You know what I mean? I don't like it when they do that, because we had the perfect ending in Days of Future Past where Wolverine reset the status quo and everybody was happy and everybody was alive. It's just, I don't want to go through that kind of, I don't want to go through that heartbreak again. Uh, you know, that's enough. All right. And so the final one, I believe, was, let's see, Wakanda and the Fantastic Four will return in Avengers Doomsday. I'm still not really all that fond of Ben's voice in this, version in the movies in the MCU. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's growing on me. I really haven't paid much attention to, I mean, I saw Wakanda Forever once. Didn't really do anything for me, but again, Shuri is Black Panther. She's, um, I guess, kind of picking up the mantle there. I guess M'Baku is in charge now because they can't have a female chieftain or whatever. I don't know. And Namor is in, in the trailer. Namor. Oh, God. I don't know. I don't know about that, man. The Namor thing, that's where they fumbled the ball worst, if you ask me, in the post Endgame MCU. How do you fumble Namor like that? I mean, that is like so off brand. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing. Namor could have been a heavy hitter. You could use him to go back to World War II with the invaders. You could have done some cool stuff with him. Instead, he's sort of like this Mayan holdover with this weird accent or something. I don't know, man. I just do something with Namor. I don't know. Do something to rehabilitate that character, because, gosh, it's awful. And again, a lot of people are suggesting, well, are they going to follow up on sort of the Namor Sue romance? I don't think they're going to do something like that. But I mean, I wish they would, because that's kind of what the comics always had. It was a trope that they was constantly, Namor was always chasing Sue. And to me, it feels strange having them both in the same movie, and he's not going to pursue her in some way. I always said that it's sort of like, it's like the husband's biggest nightmare, where your wife's coworker is like this hunky stud, and you're too busy off trying to save the world with your calculations and projects and stuff. And it's funny because, it's relatable. You know what I mean? It's relatable that way. And I kind of feel like you could do something like that and have it be, palatable for a film like this. But so much stuff is going on. That's the problem. I don't think they're going to devote time for that. So, there we go. All right, let me take a look and see what we got for comments. Thank you guys for commenting. X Punisher says, I am vengeance. I am the knight. I am X Punisher. Glad to see you joining us, X Punisher. Let's see. I don't care about Avengers Doomsday. Just give us the new MCU X-Men. Just give us Kitty Pryde. Give us Phantom X. Give us Rachel Summers. Give us Monet St. Cotrix. Give us Mystique and her wife Destiny. That's a lot to ask for. I don't know if they're going to get to all that. They'll probably get to some of that eventually. I know it. That's another thing. We got Rebecca Romaine is in this. And we also have what's his name? Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's in this too. I hope Nightcrawler and Mystique have a scene together, because that would be good, because everybody kind of liked that they had that scene together in X2, and they hinted at each other like, well, does she know that's her son or something? I don't know. That'd be interesting if they actually settle that settle that discussion. Invaders don't exist in the MCU. Oh yeah, that's one of the big mistakes that they made. They should have done something with that. I mean, they should have at least made it a possibility, because especially, I mean, I don't suppose they would do it as a movie. Maybe they could do it as a a mini series on Disney Plus, but then you would have to have Chris Evans on, and I think he'd probably become too expensive for them to put in a mini series. But they could do a they could have done a movie about invaders. That would have been cool. I don't know. I like some of that Golden Age stuff. I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, honestly, but they did the like the Easter egg of the Human Torch in the Captain America First Avenger. So I mean, they did have some kind of idea that they had Human Torch exist back then, the android version with Toro. So they could have done something, but again, I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have paid Chris Evans to do an Invaders movie, sadly. All right, so that is about it. We've gone on for almost an hour and a half. We're going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon. I thank everybody for watching. I thank everybody for joining us. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't already, please check out The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. That is the comic book that we are completely head over heels in love with over here at the Johnny Torch program. You can scan the QR code, the new QR code that they've given us at StreamYard. You could check the link in the description below. You can read it on Global Comics. And don't forget to check out that trailer. Actually, I'm going to play the trailer again, because I actually didn't have it playing right the first time at the beginning of the show. So if you stuck around long enough, you could probably do with seeing it again. But I'm going to try to do another one of these live streams pretty soon. I really enjoy them. And, it's tough to find stuff to talk about sometimes, because there really isn't a lot of news anymore about these things. I mean, not a lot of stuff worth talking about at any rate. But thank you for joining us. And as I always say, until next we meet, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.